Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the ranch. I'm Dr. Lee, and it is, as you can see, another beautiful day in South Texas. It's about 55 degrees outside today. The sun's shining, the birds are singing, the skies are blue. There's not a breeze in the sky. You can see how smooth that water is back behind us. It is just a gorgeous afternoon. I hope the weather's good where you are, and I hope you've had a good week. We've had a very, very busy week out here on the ranch. All the foliage, as you can see, is starting to turn brown, so it doesn't have much nutrients in it anymore. So we've started supplementing the deer. So I've been loading up the deer feeders and setting them up, getting them going. I've been setting the game cameras back up too. And we are seeing a lot of really, really pretty axis deer and white-tailed deer alike. And our old buddies, the raccoons, are already coming back in and wreaking havoc. And we had a video about that last year, so I need to take your lead and some of the suggestions you guys made and see if we can take care of some of these little varmints that steal the deer food. But anyway, like I said, the deer are looking good. They're going into winter in really, really good shape, which means that the fawn crop should do really well this year. There'll be more fawns and they'll be healthier when they come into the world because the mamas are healthier, they grow better in the mama's tummies, and they also have a better supply of milk after they're born. So in other words, everything's going pretty good. Mark has made a couple of trips to MD Anderson since I last spoke with you, and he will get you up to date on all those results on his channel on Medical Monday. I will put a link to his channel down below in the description. So anyway, everything's going good out here. I hope everything's going good with you too. Going back a couple of videos back, we did one on kindness, and the comment section in there was pretty overwhelming. A lot of folks alluded to the kind things that had happened to them or things they did to for other people that were extremely kind, and very heartwarming to read through the comment section. So guys, once again, thank you so much for contributing. You guys make this channel, and there's no question about that. So thank you so much for that. But anyway, there was one comment in particular that I read, and it was by a regular subscriber. If you read the comments, you've seen her name many, many times before over the last couple of years. And her avatar name is Ranch Stock Stray. And she is a real sweet lady, and just the kindest person ever. Very witty sense of humor, and a very, very intelligent person. You can tell by the way she writes. But Linda, that's her name, Linda. Hope you don't get mad at me for letting the world know, Linda. But nevertheless, Linda, in that kindness video, left a comment, and she was talking about how during her last year, her senior year at Kansas. University of Kansas, and kind of reading between the lines, it looked like she didn't have enough money, like we all didn't have enough money, to pay for her senior year, and she was not going to be able to finish her degree because of financial problems. And man, we can all relate with that. But anyway, something happened with Linda. Either a person or an organization somehow came through with the money and took care financially of her senior year. That's what I read into it. Linda, if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, or if you want to, just leave us the story. I'm sure it would be an interesting read if you don't mind taking the time to write it out. But anyway, a random act of kindness took care of Linda. She was able to graduate, and she said, it was big for me and it was big for my family. So evidently she was kind of like me. She had people depending on her ability to get out and get a career going. But that took me back to a similar situation that I had, and I didn't really have any great video ideas today, so I thought it'll be another story time with Dr. Lee. So I hate to bore you to death with another one, so I'll try to make it quick and to the point. This is a two-part story, and the first part of this story happened back in the 70s. I lived up in North Texas, and I just got a wild hair one day, and I thought I'd like to be a veterinarian. And I asked a couple of people, where do you go to be a veterinarian? They said, there's only one vet school in the state, and that's Texas A&M. So I jumped in my car, and I drove 5 hours, and I came to Texas A&M, and I went to the vet school. not by way of GPS. It was road maps and asking the guy at the service station where you turn next to get there. But I went to the vet school, and I went in the biggest door that there was, and I walked in. There's a giant hallway there, and I walked down the hallway, and I saw some big doors on the left down there, big glass panels on the walls and big glass doors. And I thought, well, this is probably a place where somebody could tell me what I need to know. And I looked over the top of the door when I got down there, and it said, Office of the Dean. And I thought, good enough. If anybody knows, the dean will know. So I walk into the office, and there's this lady sitting at a desk. And she was a rather large lady, had a beautiful face. She was a really pretty lady, and she was an old lady. She was probably 50. And I walked in there, and she said, well, hi, son, how are you today? And I said, I'm just fine. How are you doing today? And she said, I'm good, and we will call her Margie today, because she did something. She kind of bent some rules for me. But Margie, she said to me, but Margie said, well, what can we do for you, son? And I said, well, I would like to be a veterinarian. And she just kind of smiled, and she said, well, that's good, that's good. And she said, would you like to set up an appointment to meet with someone? And I said, well, I just drove 5 hours. Is there nobody that can talk with me and just kind of tell me what I need to do? And she said, well, son, usually people call and they get an appointment, and then about 3 or 4 weeks later, when their appointment time comes up, they drive back down here. They drive down here, and we have someone that's slated to take them around the campus and everything. She said, but hold on just a second. Let me see what I can do. And she left for a minute, and she came back. And there was an old guy with her, and he was even older than she was. He must have been 65. You know, he was way out there. And but he came up there, and he said, hi, son, my name's Dr. Price. And I said, well, hello, Dr. Price, my name's Lee. And I told him, you know, that I had just figured out overnight that I wanted to be a veterinarian. And he said, well, it's a good career. I'm a veterinarian. And he said, would you like to see around the school? And I said, yes, sir. And so he went and he showed me the anatomy lab, and we looked at dead horses, and we looked at dead pigs, and there was a couple of whales in there. They were taken apart, and they smelled horrible. And he took me to look at the microscopes, and then he took me and opened the classroom door and showed me all the students in there studying. And we walked across the part of the vet campus, and we talked about Aggie football, and we talked about girls, and we talked about hunting, and it was just, this guy was just like your next door neighbor. So anyway, Dr. Price carried me around all these places. He didn't have to do that. He was just a kind man. And finally he took me back to the office where Margie was there, and dropped me off, and he said goodbye, and he went back into the dean's office. And so anyway, I was sitting there talking with Margie, and I said, well, that Mr. Dr. Price, he sure is a nice man, isn't he? And she said, he is. She said, I worked with him for 8 years. And she said, I was his secretary. And I said, oh, really? I said, so you and him work somewhere else? And she goes, nope, right here. She said, he's the previous dean of the entire vet school. And I said, wow. I said, well, thanks, Margie. I appreciate you hooking me up with him. But anyway, Margie and I, that was the first of a long relationship. I asked her what I needed to do, and she said, I told her I dropped out of college, and she said, you need to get back in college. And she said, why don't you just come down here, finish out your undergraduate degree, and then apply to vet school. And I said, okay. And I said, is it pretty hard or pretty easy? And she said, this year there's 1,200 applicants applying for 125 positions. And I said, whoa. And she said, so you have to beat out over 1,000 other students to get in. And she said, so if you come down here, you need to be on your A game. And she said, by A game, I mean you need to make A in everything you do. And I said, okay. So that's Margie. And when I did that, within about a year, I moved down to College Station, and I started trying to make A's and everything. And a lot of my classes were in the vet school. They were undergraduate classes, but they were in the vet school. And the first day that I was there that I saw Margie, I had to walk by the dean's office going to class, and the first day I saw Margie sitting in there, I just kind of opened the door and I waved at her and I said, "Remember me?" And she, I don't know if she did. She said she did. And anyway, I waved at her, and and I always got to where I'd say, "Well, gosh, that sure is a pretty dress you have on today, Margie," or "Gosh, your hair looks nice today," and just silly little random comments like that. And sometimes I'd just tap on the glass when I was walking by if I was in a hurry and wave to her. And so over the years, just that little bit of kindness, there you go again, just that little bit of friendship, a little bit of kindness, we became fairly close. And I got to where I just loved her. She was just the nicest lady ever. But okay, that sums up part one of this two-part story. You just needed to know what Margie was all about. And just the sweetest lady ever, but it's important to this story. Here comes part two. I went through all the undergraduate. I went through my first couple of years of vet school, and I did exactly what Margie said. I made straight A's all the way through. There were a couple of B's in there, but for the most part, I made almost all A's. So I was competitive when it came time to apply for vet school, and I got in. First 2 years in vet school, I made A's. Third year of vet school came around, and I worked the whole time I was there, from the time I started, and my wife did too. She worked for a dentist there, and I mowed grass, and I did make-readies in apartments and painted apartments and fixed toilets and everything else all the students at A&M tore up. That's what I did through the summers and when I had time off during school. But come the third year, we had a brand new baby on the ground. Matt was born. And instead of being a straight A student, I was having to divide myself between school, which was a booger, work, and helping my wife raise this little baby. And she was working full time too. So my grade point average dropped down to about a high B, and I was no longer a straight A kid anymore. And we were struggling financially, and one day, just about this time of year, it was a brutally cold day in College Station, and I went out to the mailbox, and we were running out of money. We weren't running out of money, we were out of money, and I was trying to figure out how in the world we were going to survive another year and a half of vet school with this little baby, and it was getting to where I was having a hard time working because school was getting so demanding. And I opened up the mailbox, and there were a couple of letters in there, and one of them was from the office of the vet school, and it was from the scholarships department. And I opened that letter up, and there was a check in there made out to me for $1,000. And I looked at that, and I thought, holy cow. And I could not have been more excited if it had been $1 million. But I got that check, and I got in the house, and my heart kind of melted for a minute, because I thought, Lee, you fool, this is not yours. Because the kids that got scholarships, they were the straight A kids. Kids that were making B's, they're not going to get any scholarships. So I went in to see Margie, and I walked in there, and the dean was behind her, and the assistant dean was behind her, and I said, Margie, I said, I think there's been a mistake. And she said, why is that? And I said, I received this scholarship. And she said, I know you did. And I said, but Margie, they haven't seen my latest grades. I'm making B's. I'm making high B's now. I'm not making A's anymore. And she said, no, Lee, she said, that's your money. That's yours. And she said, that scholarship was meant for you. And I said, you don't know how much this means. I said, I'll take it, but I can't believe it's for me. And she said, trust me, it's for you. And I said, well, can you tell me where it came from or anything like that? And she said, Lee, you know that's privileged information, and we can't disclose that. And I said, oh, okay. And I sat there, and she kind of gave me a funny look, and I just sat there for a minute. And so we talked about some other stuff for a minute, and the dean and the assistant dean left, and I said, okay, Margie, level with me. And she said, Well, here's the pile of scholarships, and she just kind of laid one down, and it was the one that had my name on it, and I saw the name of the guy that sent that scholarship in. So I had his, and I just kind of winked at her, and I turned around and walked out. So I had his name in my head, and it just kept resonating for a few days. And then one day I thought, I'm going to call that guy, and I'm going to talk to him, because I was so appreciated, because he had saved us. And I looked him up, and I called him, and I'm going to have to protect his name too. So I called Dr. Smith, and I said, hi, Dr. Smith, my name's Lee Carriker. I'm a third-year vet student at Texas A&M, and I just wanted to call you. I said, I'm the recipient of the scholarship that you funded, and I just wanted to call you and tell you thank you. And I said, my situation, I said, my wife works full-time. I said, I work full-time. We've got this new baby. And I said, vet school's getting so hard. And I was just going on, and he finally, he got tired of hearing me yak. He couldn't hit stop, pause, or delete like you guys can. He just got tired of hearing me whining, and he said, son, stop, just stop. And he said, that scholarship was labeled for a third-year student who was married, who had a baby, who worked, and his wife worked too. And he said, and it's understood that those people usually have a difficult time to get through college. And I said, well, I just can't tell you how much that's helped me. I said, you just would not believe what a predicament we've been in. And again, he stopped me and he said, son, I want you to be quiet and listen to me for a minute. He said, the only reason you got that scholarship that was earmarked like that is because those are the same shoes I was wearing 40 years ago. He said, I've been there. I was a third-year student. He said, my wife and I went broke. He said, we had a baby. I worked all the time. She worked all the time. And that is why that scholarship is earmarked like that. So he and I chatted for a little bit more, and I got off the phone, and I thought, what a wonderful man. I hope someday to be in a situation like he is, to where, I can help people too. And that stuck with me for a long time. And it's funny, over the years, I would meet, people would come into my clinic, and they would be from the same hometown as Dr. Smith. And I would say, hey, do you know old Dr. Smith? And they'd go, yeah, we know him. And I said, is he not just the nicest guy? Isn't he an angel of a fella? And they'd go, that's the most crotchety old SOB. It never failed. I don't think anybody ever had a nice word to say about the guy. They all said, he's a great vet, but he doesn't say much, and he kind of grumbles, kind of growls at you when you're in there. So anyway, that's one of those, don't judge a book by the cover. That's one of those deals where he was given a gift, and he didn't want anybody to know about it. And that's what giving is all about. Anyway, that is the end of part 2. I hope you like that silly story. Well, guys, that's about it from out here on the ranch today. Short and sweet. It was short for me, probably brutal for you guys to sit through there. But anyway, like I said, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're healthy. I hope life is treating you well. And I hope you get some weather like this too. And one thing I'm going to do, before I started filming, I just looked around this area right here on the other side of the camera, what you can't see. And it's really, really pretty, because all these little, I guess they're pyracanthus or something. All these thorn bushes are blooming out with red berries all over them, and the sun's hitting them from the side. It's just a gorgeous little video. So I wanted you to see that too. Well, guys, once again, thanks a lot for stopping by on Out on the Ranch. I appreciate you guys dropping in. Good to have you out here today. Have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you next week. And always remember, I love you. So what you doing there, Al?
Neutering a dog, Dad.
All right. Who's gonna learn you?
That's a mistake.